The Valley Suns are here. The Phoenix Suns announced their G League franchise on Wednesday morning. On today's episode of Locked On Suns, what that could mean and why it's only going to work if they make it. Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Brendon Kleen, a credentialed media member covering the Suns for the past 7 seasons, the host of the Just Basketball Show, wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen to start off your Thursday. Back with you as the Suns offseason continues, and they've kept the announcements rolling. I don't even need to say offseason. It's news mania here in Phoenix, and I appreciate you spending your Thursday with me. Hit follow or subscribe if you haven't already. We're free and available everywhere, including YouTube. Just hit that button, get a new episode in your feed every single Monday through Friday. Get locked on to the Phoenix Suns all season long. Become an everydayer. We're going to have content for you all summer. It's not slowing down. All right. The Valley Suns. Don't think it's everybody's favorite name. Personally, wish they would have gotten a little more creative. You got the Capital City Go-Go, you got the Memphis Hustle, you got the Rip City Remix. I like the kind of nickname for the city concept with the Valley, but you don't have to do the Suns. Just do something a little bit related. Either way, the logo's even worse. I'm sorry to start the show on a negative note, but that's how I feel. But the reality is here, this is a big opportunity for the Suns, okay? Because this is how you develop talent, all right? This is how you develop talent. You take advantage of every avenue that's available to you. The Suns had not been doing that over the past 4 years since they sold their G League team because Robert Sarver is a cheapskate. Now they have the opportunity to do it. That's the bottom line, all right? And so within that, where are we looking? Every great team in the NBA develops talent this way. All right? Look at the conference finals right now. You look at the Thunder. They're not in the conference finals. I'll start there. Isaiah Joe. You have Lindy Waters, who I've mentioned. Aaron Wiggins. These guys, Lou Dort. They came up playing in the Oklahoma City Blue. You look at Minnesota. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, great example of somebody who had to really cut their teeth, develop. He didn't even start his career in Minnesota. He played in New Orleans and Utah and then finally got there and bounced around, and they developed him. He has played Naz Reid has played 16 games in the G League. You go to Dallas, maybe a little bit less of an example there. Derrick Jones Jr. certainly, I don't give the Mavs credit. He developed long before they got to him, but he's obviously a G League product, came through Phoenix once upon a time. And then the Pacers, where, TJ McConnell is a byproduct of the process in Philadelphia, and you have guys who have really, again, I believe Aaron Nesmith, back when he was with the Celtics, played a lot of time for the main G League franchise. I can get you the exact number of games there. He played, a handful, as well as, I believe, a specialty tournament. It's up and down these rosters. Guys who one way or another, on one franchise or another, the G League is a real thing. All right? The G League, the Pacers put their rookies there this year for a lot of the season. Jarris Walker and Ben Shepherd. Ben Shepherd's playing minutes. So I don't need to throw more examples at you because it's the truth. The Miami Heat have taken advantage of this. The Clippers have taken advantage of this. The Warriors have taken advantage and been able to develop real rotation players from the G League. The Suns sold their team, and we'll get to their approach here as we go, but they sold their G League team because Robert Sarver, I think honestly, it wasn't even a financial necessity. I think that he just saw an opportunity to cheap out and took it. he laid off staff. He sold this team. He cut corners all before he really had to. Before anybody really had clarity about the NBA season continuing or not continuing. A lot of NBA teams furloughed their people, but if you remember, like Joel Embiid donated some money along with Sixers ownership to help people out. We don't need to go back down the pandemic rabbit hole. Nobody wants to talk about that, but the reality is this was unnecessary and an unforced error. Now the Suns are on level playing field again. They have these opportunities at their disposal. The team, the Valley Suns, this G League franchise, is not only centrally located in the city, playing at Mullet Arena in Tempe, they are also not too far from Footprint Center as a result of that, not too far from the Verizon 5G practice facility as a result of that. Really just a straight shot down Scottsdale Road and a little bit obviously to the west from there, and you're at the Suns facility. So they should be able to turn this into something good. The facility at Mullet is nice. If you've ever seen a hockey game there, you know it's new, it's recently built, it's been, prettied up in order for the Coyotes to play there, so it's a better place than a lot of G League franchises are going to play, I would imagine. Phoenix is desirable in the winter, just the same as it is for the Suns. It's going to have that value for this G League team. People are going to want to play here. People, as they build out a coaching staff here, a front office here, I would imagine it will be a desirable destination. If it's anything like how Matt Ishbia has approached the front office with the Suns, the coaching staff with the Suns, same with the Mercury, he's going to spend and invest in this thing, and a little goes a long way in the G League, right? You can hire a pretty good coach, give him a fat raise from what he might be making elsewhere, and still not really be breaking the bank. That's how this is going to work. So that is all to say. The best teams this year and throughout the G League's history, but especially as teams have really started to take advantage over it over the past 5-10 years, the best teams use it. The best teams get results and actually get difference makers through this pipeline, and the Suns now have a chance to catch up. That being said, recent history under James Jones, under Robert Sarver shows they might not want to pursue these avenues, even if the money's there and the resources are there to do it. This will only work if they make it work. I'll tell you why next. First, today's show brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs, the best place to hire, the best place to get hired. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for your role, and that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs, which has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Big fan of LinkedIn. I write about the media world, so I post my articles there and get some chatter going, but it's best as a place to get hired, and I got my job there as well. I wasn't fully on the search. I was kind of part-time this, contract that, freelance over here, but I eventually found this posting for a job that fit me perfectly. I was able to know it fit me perfectly because the description was great. It had details about pay, and it had the managers listed right there. So all I did was message those people. They were able to see, hey, he would be a good fit here. We had the interview booked within a day or two, and I was hired within a week or two. LinkedIn knows small businesses are wearing so many hats who might not have the time or resources to hire. That's why they're not just another job board. They have a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, making it the best place to hire. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate through LinkedIn within 24 hours. Join those 2.5 million small businesses using LinkedIn for free today by visiting linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Keeping the show rolling, let's talk history, recent history. We're not going too far back. The Suns only had a G League franchise in Phoenix, or in Arizona, I should say, for 4 years. So from 2016 to 2020, and before that it was in Bakersfield. So to be fair, right, we didn't see exactly what this could be, how valuable it could be, because during that portion of time when the Suns were able to have the Prescott Valley squad, the Northern Arizona Suns, they were also tanking and rebuilding on the court in the NBA. So they weren't really in a position where it's like, hey, we're competing for championships, let's let our young guys grow up in Prescott. Instead, it was kind of, well, what's really the point here? However, the reason I have my suspicions or my doubts or my qualms here is under James Jones and even under Ryan McDonough, previous to that, the Suns have not taken full advantage of every avenue the way that I just said they should. Even when they had the G League team, like I mentioned, two-way contracts, which will allow them to jump back and forth, players to jump back and forth between the G League and the NBA, and really the whole player development infrastructure. The Suns have been, I don't want to say resistant, because I can't mind read, but the results have not shown. Let me just read you the two-way players the Suns have had. So the two-way contract, I believe, began in 2019, the 2019-20 season. No, the year before that. I believe they did use a lot of DeAnthony Melton in the G League, even though he wasn't on a two-way contract. So I'll give them credit there. I'm not sure if there was a two-way that year. You go on to the next season, 2019-20. I think the Suns signed Jawan Evans at one point. They had Jalen LeCue at another point. They had Jared Harper is another one. They had just signed Tariq Owens from Texas Tech, if you remember him, do a two-way contract right when COVID hit. I don't actually think they ever officially signed. It was like literally days before they announced that. The final season, you're talking about, did they even have one? I don't think so. Tyshawn Alexander was that season. Next year, 64-win season, you're talking Ish Wainwright. It has not been a resource that the Suns have taken advantage of. There's a reason I was struggling to remember those names even as I'm looking at the roster, and there's a reason you forgot most of them, right? It's because the Suns have not taken advantage of it. Now, of course, that sucks because their G League team, once they sold it, was whatever one they could assign a player to. Like Jalen Smith spent the G League showcase bubble thing that they did after the 2020 draft with, I believe, the Clippers affiliate. So when you don't have once they sold the team in 2020, when you don't have that direct affiliate, your development infrastructure is out of your control, right? You might have a relationship with the coach, you might know a little bit about how they do things, it might feel like the system makes sense, but that coaching staff has no vested interest in your player getting better, your player getting minutes, and the terminology, the culture, the personnel, it might not be similar. Whereas again, like to keep using the Thunder as an example because I think they've really taken advantage of it, Mark Daigneault, who just won Coach of the Year, who led them to a number one seed this season, he was the G League team's head coach. So Dort and these other guys, like they had that familiarity and foundation with him. He had served on Billy Donovan's staff before that. Then he went to the G League. Then he came back to take the head coaching spot. Like, it's worked perfectly for them. It's not going to be that easy for anyone else. I'm not saying it should, but it has to be top down. It has to be collaborative, and it has to be a focus. It has to be an emphasis. You have to say, we're going to draft this guy in the second round, or we're going to sign this undrafted free agent or this player from overseas. And part of their development plan with what our vision is going to be is going to come through the G League. We trust our coach there. We trust our GM there. We're going to do this, that, and this and get this player to the next level and hopefully backfill and have that guy eventually become a 8th, 9th, 10th man for our NBA team. Back to some level of skepticism here. I don't think that I have to go too deep to remind you of an article that Kevin Arnovitz wrote at ESPN before he left the summer of 2022 about the Suns' approach to all of this. Okay? He commented about the Thunder. James Jones did, sorry. James Jones said to Kevin Arnovitz in this article, I respect what OKC does. That's what they've chosen to be, I guess. Everything's a choice. I don't judge. I respect it. It's just not for me. He says in a separate part of this article, you're either trying to win or you're not trying to win. If you're not trying to win, you can say what you want, but you're trying to lose. You can say, let's go slow and win later, but there are too many things between now and later. I'm trying to win now and win later. Players know every day in the league brings them one day closer to the end of their careers, and I can't waste their days. I don't know. I really don't know. There's details in here about they have 6-7 guys on their draft board. 2019, when they took Cam Johnson 11th after trading back, they were prepared to take him 6th because they just believed in him that much. I guess to me, you can afford to be all in on some of this stuff, right? Plenty of teams are in the NBA. What you can't afford is to be ignorant, frankly, and to have the confidence and the cockiness that you are so good at all of the more present day aspects of building out a winning roster that you can ignore, diligence around prospects 20 through 60 in a draft, or sell your G League team and not focus on it, or not really be that treat two-way players really as like depth rather than development opportunities and all these other things. That's where you can go awry. If you're so cocky about, I can nail this trade and this free agency signing and this everything else, so I don't care about all that. At the end of the day, that can't be true forever. If it was that easy, everybody would have that approach, because it would just be solve tomorrow's problems tomorrow and figure it out. But then you draft Jalen Smith, you trade a pick for Landry Shamet, you do all these things, and suddenly, oh crap, well, we're not winning right now as much as we would like to, and we don't have the assets we would like to be able to increase our likelihood of winning now. So we're screwed. What focusing on the G League team and making a greater emphasis on scouting and player development does for you is it should just work for itself. Again, you have to hire the right people. It has to matter to you. You have to have it be part of your vision overall. But it should just be a little bit of a machine at a certain point, right? Like, you should be able to say, okay, we liked this player. He was 50th on our board, 40th on our board, but he didn't get drafted. We signed him because we talked to his agent ahead of time. He became our starting 2-guard on opening night in Tempe at Mullet for the G League. We expect he'll take a year or two in that program before he's ready, but we like how he fits here. I mean, it's minor league baseball. Oh, our pitching staff only has 3-4 guys ready right now, but they're relatively young, so we like this guy in Double-A. We think he'll be ready for the majors opening day next year. So this year's a little bit of an in-between, but we're kind of counting that guy as part of our rotation. We might buy an arm at the deadline to get us that 4th guy for the playoffs in the meantime, but we're not going to sign him to, this is how it goes. The G League can be that, but you have to want it to be that. And I'm not sure the Suns do. So with that being said, what's the best case scenario here? Is this really going to be a difference maker? Big picture. Get into that coming up next. First, today's show brought to you by BetterHelp. BetterHelp is changing the game, making therapy more accessible to you. We all carry around different stressors, big and small. Therapy is a safe space to get those things off your chest instead of bottling them up and figure out how to work through whatever's weighing you down. Therapy is huge. It doesn't have to be something massive or traumatic or distinct or this scary thing. It can just be, hey, I'm dealing with this. I'm worried about this. I want to talk to somebody who's not part of my life, about my life, and just feel a little better. It can be that simple. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, flexible, convenient, and suited to your schedule. All you got to do to get started is fill out a brief questionnaire, get matched with a licensed therapist who suits you, and switch therapists anytime to find the right person for no additional charge. Get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month and try it out for yourself. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, let's close out the show. The last ingredient here that I think you really have to understand is salary cap, right? Like, we can dream up all day, hey, sign Royce O'Neal to a huge contract, or you extend Grayson Allen and it creates these new trade chips for you, and what's Yusuf Nurkic's value, and freezing picks, when does this pick become available? Those all matter. The Suns just hired a new cap guru from Brooklyn, fired the guy in Trevor Buckstein who had held that role for them for longer than I even know. And those will be important to nail as well. You got to get the trades and the cap stuff right. But the easiest way to backfill when you're old and you're expensive is developing talent, not stealing it away from other teams or hoping you get lucky. I know the Denver Nuggets are not the best example here, given that they just lost 2. But that was their approach last summer, and I think most people around the league, media and otherwise, seemed to feel like it was the smartest way to go. Calvin Booth, their general manager, said, hey, we get the second apron. We get why the league wants to create parity. We're fine with not winning 3 championships in a row if it means over the next, 8 years of Nikola Jokic's career before he retires, we win 2 or 3, That's how the smart teams are thinking about it, and they went out and they traded back, and they traded future picks for now picks and all this stuff. They had 3 rookies on this year's team, I believe, as well as Christian Brown and Peyton Watson, who they drafted last year, who looked pretty promising. That's 4 or 5 guys where even if you only hit on 2 or 3 of them, 1 or 2 of them can go a long way when you have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope for free agency and Michael Porter Jr. on, kind of people's trade watch list here. I mentioned the Wolves. They went all in with the Rudy Gobert trade. They gave Karl Anthony Towns a supermax, and then they said, hey, we got to be smart about this. Naz Reid was an undrafted free agent. Jaden McDaniels was a late first-round pick. Nickeil Alexander-Walker was I believe a second-round pick who they got on his 3rd team. Those 3 guys are making a huge impact. This stuff matters. The G League franchise is not going to be the only difference between finding those guys and not finding those guys. But as I've said now multiple times, it can be a big help. Think about Jalen Smith. The Suns go all in, trade for Chris Paul. Suddenly Jalen Smith doesn't really have a role for a team that wants to compete right now. Then the season, he gets COVID, the season goes way better than expected, and the Suns are kind of off to the races. The Suns wanted him to kind of be their power forward of the future, but Cam Johnson's playing great. They get Jay Crowder on a mid-level exception deal that really, really helped them, value contract. Where's Jalen Smith supposed to fit in? So he doesn't really play his rookie year. They put him in that G League showcase with the Clippers team, doesn't play a lot there. And it already sort of felt like it was over. Misses his whole rookie season as far as an opportunity to improve. Finally gets to the Pacers, and look, he hasn't been in their postseason rotation. I don't feel like he maybe ever was going to be some kind of difference-making NBA rotation big, but he at least reached closer to that potential once he got a real opportunity to grow and improve and fit a role. The Pacers got him, and they were able to pay him, and they're not up against it. But Boston with Sam Hauser, great example. Luke Cornett, great example. Bucks, they didn't have those guys. They were in the Suns' position. Clippers, there's a reason they're holding on to Bones Highland, and Amir Coffey's a great example of a guy. The Suns have not had those players, and it's going to hurt them even more if they cannot find a way to discover and develop those players. I gave you my list of minimum free agents, my top 10 the other day. people on Twitter are laughing and crying and just oh my godding at the level of talent on that list. And I get it. Hoping that the difference between a first round sweep and a championship is like a new head coach, one trade, and then like getting Sandro Mamukelashvili. Yeah, that's a tough sell. I'm not here to tell you otherwise. But what if I said 2 years from now, the Suns were able to draft sign an undrafted free agent this year, have him play in Tempe next year, and be ready to be a contributor at age 24, 23, whatever, the season after next. Great, and that didn't really cost you anything. You know, again, to go back to the Thunder, it also is not just the fact that you have these players and you're able to develop them while you're also trying to win games. It's I don't always like to talk about players and athletes this way, but they're cheap. They're cheap from a team building standpoint. You're getting cost-controlled players, right? That was part of the thing with so many Philly guys during the process is they were able to trade some of those dudes to other teams because they were so affordable and therefore their contract was so valuable that they kept the machine going because they would find these guys, flash talent, and then trade them. Thunder have kind of done the same thing, but you look at the Thunder roster, Aaron Wiggins, who I didn't mention before, who went through their G League program, Isaiah Joe, who I did mention, Lou Dort. Those guys have been at, $1, $2, $3 million, and then even their next contract, oftentimes, like, they come up for an extension earlier if they come via the second round or undrafted, just based on how the rules work, and they're usually restricted at that time. So it adds up. It adds up with the personnel, the talent you're able to field on your roster, and it adds up in terms of the money you're able to save. Step one was getting the team. Step two is harder. Again, staffing, identifying it, and incorporating it into your long-term vision. We'll get into this more with Steven Perjone to end the week. We're going to talk about James Jones, the moves the Suns have made in the front office. They fired 2 people. They hired 1. Kind of feels like this is James Jones' last chance here. Find difference makers through the avenues you have and do better with the roster or you're done. Luckily for him, this is a great resource. They've all just got to embrace it and use it. That'll wrap us up for the day. Hit follow or subscribe if you haven't already. Become an everydayer throughout the rest of the offseason. Catch Steven and I talking James Jones, offseason, front office, and more on tomorrow's episode. More next week and beyond. Enjoy your Thursday. I'll catch you guys next time.